Well, good afternoon. It is Wednesday, May 18th, which was the VIX expiration today, this morning, in front of the options expiration on Friday at the end of this week. And it was quite an interesting day. S&Ps are down 4.33%, 170 some odd points. NASDAQ was down about 5%. This is, this is not what I was looking for this week, first of all. We did talk about the importance of the VIX expiration in this particular expiration series, be it that there's 5 weeks between the April and May expiration of this Friday, and some of the reasons why, the additional inventory that the dealers can take on over an extended period of time, etc. But at the end of the day, what I was looking for, as you know, earlier this week was a 39.45 over underline in the sand, up versus down, and had a view, and that was that would hold on retrace on Tuesday to take us up through the last week's high at 69, and then start the move up to our bullish targets 41.60 and 42.20. Here's what's going on. We did actually reach up, and the price action reached up and took out last week's high, but failed at that 4100 level, which was the Globex high of last week. Now, I didn't see that one coming. I want to show you, and then failed from there, obviously, today, all the way down into that old quarterly settlement print down at 39.12. That's the way this thing ends up today, which is huge, down today, 4.33%. Here's what I need to point out for you here about what's happening here. This indicator that you see with these markers on here, the white is essentially the weekly open and pivot. We call this the H1 and H2 for the higher levels, and then the L1 and L2. Look over here with me, periods analyzed, 61 weeks, and then percent of, as back tested, percent probability as back tested of touch, the H1, the H2, close greater than the H1, the H2, percent probability, touch, L1 and L2, then close lower than L1 and L2, all right? So you can see touch on the H1, 41% back tested for 61 weeks. Close beyond that, not such a high probability, 21. Touch on the L1 and L2 down here, this is where it gets interesting. Touch on the first, which we did today, 46%. Close below that, 20%, decent. Touch L2, still 18%. That's what I need to get to. That's what we need to talk about. And then close beyond that, 3.3, again, back tested, 61 weeks, right? So then what are these levels? Well, the weekly open, weekly pivot, etc., right? The top one up here was that 4100. The first one that we traded into today was that gap and gap mid down there that we traded into, that I was looking actually to hold as support. It just didn't. But look at, again, the stats, right? Touch on L2, 18, close beyond 3.3%. So what is this level? 38.71. 38.71. All right, so today is Wednesday. Big move on Wednesday. What do we know about Wednesdays? We don't want to chase this. This is a low for the week, right? Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday, low for the week down here. We don't want to chase this. I don't think we want to chase it. What I want to actually is this a really bold, difficult, tough call, because it's going to sound for a minute like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but what I want to look for is this. I want to look for this to hold. I want to look for tomorrow or tonight a little test maybe of this 38.71 and bounce, and not really chase this Wednesday weakness, but bounce. And that's a tough call because of, well, our stats. And go back and look at all of these weeks, right? I mean, look at this one, right? It touches off on the first level, goes up and, into the second. It doesn't have a good historical high probability of breaching beyond these H2s or L2s. It just doesn't. And this is an indicator that we use at Simpler. It's called the quant pivots, and we use it for a reason because it really does help. I mean, it really does work. So what I'm gonna try to do here is make a bold call, and that is that we get a little bit of follow through. It's about 38.71 and bounce. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The bounce and how high and that kind of thing. Look, I'm still interested in sell the rips for lower to come. Target 3,600. I don't even think we're going to talk at 37. We're just going to talk again at 36. I mean, it's lower. It's going lower. It's going a lot lower. 36 is where we're going to talk again about the reason I think it's going to 34. But I'll see you at 36 and we'll talk. But here's the thing: it's sell the rips for these lower. But how do you sell the rips when you can't sell a rip if there's no rip, all right? You can't sell an uptick if there's no real uptick. And I could be obviously wrong, but I really think and certainly thought and still think that our spot is up here at 42.20. Notice I'm not saying 4,200 or 4,180 and 4,240. It's 4,220. So, and there's a big volume ledge up there is the reason for that. So that's kind of the reason for it. But so give me a second and let me go to a couple of charts here. I'll go to a daily and then we're going to go to the weekly and show really how difficult this is, honestly. The monthly chart is one-time framing lower, meaning it's making lower highs. The daily chart was one-time framing lower until we got to the tail end of last week. When we get this bid out of the hole, it ends the one-time framing down and throws this into a then question like, well, are we going to start one-time framing higher? That needs higher lows. Yes, it did. It did that. All right, well, so that then grabbed my attention and said, okay, then on the weekly, and remember, we're taking this to RTH only, no Globex. And so let me get rid of that, just get it out of the way for a second. All right, so then the question, all right, so if that's the case on the daily, then is that enough to spin this weekly up through last week's high and start the same process on the weekly chart? It has ended the one-time framing down on the weekly chart. We don't know yet if we're going to get a series of beginning the one-time framing higher on the weekly chart. We don't know that yet. We definitely have ended the one-time framing down on the weekly. But what we're looking for right now is, with that, are we going to this week hold last week's low? Next week, give it a chance to hold this week's low. That starts one-time framing up. That's why I said it's going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, because this I still see has a chance. It has to really play out the way I just proposed, and that is reach down and tag 38.70, like 1 or maybe 2, and bounce. It's not like it can go 38.50 and still be okay. It's 38.70, 1 or 2, and bounce. And that keeps last week's low. that ends the one-time framing lower on the weekly and gives next week a chance to finish with a higher low than this week, start to work its way back up, where we definitely are interested. I'll say it again. We're definitely interested in selling the rips for absolutely looking for lower to come. Okay, but the question is, okay, sell the rip, that's great, but how do you do that if there's no bid to sell? And that's what I'm working on right now. I know the spot, I just know that the price action has to get there so that we can do this. My plan is this. It's really simple. My plan is a bid off of the 7 weeks of selling comes back up to 42.20. We sell it, and we're targeting 3,600. From there, we will very likely talk about a bounce back up into 39, and then we're going to talk about lower 3,400. The reason for 3,400, that takes it back to the pre-COVID highs. That's right where the S&Ps were. Well, we get there when we have plenty of time to talk about that. That's out in the future, and so we don't have to worry about that right now. We'll explain it all when the time comes. Look, we are. You saw the levels, right? You saw the indicator of the quant. You saw the back test 61 weeks. You see the percent touch and close below. Close below is very low historically in back test on this, okay? And we have a low for the week on a Wednesday. We don't like to chase the extremes on Wednesday, so I'm talking about a slight little bit further that gets to come through tonight or early tomorrow morning that tags and bounces, and it's got to hold that spot that I just showed you in order to be a good bounce and keep last week's low intact to, in fact, start the one-time framing up. We're going to talk about trip up to 42.20, fade, target 3,600. Here's what I can't control. Well, the price action, right? So clearly what could happen is this bounce is just the question, how far can a dead cat bounce, right? And well, this one didn't bounce very far. I'm trying to hold on to an idea here, though, if you can kind of follow me with this logic, this thinking, that this selling today was on the VIX expiration. We talked about it weeks ago. It's the VIX expiration in front of the options expiration in a very important 5-week versus the typical 4 cycle between the April and May expirations. And so there's a lot of inventory to come unwound, i.e. once the hedge is off, with this VIX expiration. And so this thing just absolutely fell apart. And what I'm trying to hold on to is the idea that this was on the Vixpiration, and we can get a what would be a real surprise, obviously, to a lot of people, that this thing can tag and come still round up out of the hole, grab our 42s up here, we fade it. We sell it. If we can get it, we fade it. I mean, we really sell it. And we target from there, 600 lower at 36. So look, what it's going to do, we're going to find out together. I'll be the first to admit when I am, caught off guard and head faked. And I don't like this price action because what I was looking for was what I just explained, right? The daily shifted to one-time framing up. We broke the one-time framing down on the weekly. This starts a neutral mode, which can transition into an uptick, get it on a nice about 50% retracement of this last 750 points of selling from 46 down to like 39 or 38.5. That's like 750 points of selling. We get a relief bid up off of that then works for the next leg lower. This one, I couldn't have told you to fade it at 4,100. I didn't have any reason to fade it at 4,100. I've got 42.20, 41.60, and 42.20. 41.60 was really in my mind just a scale for a little bit of profit taking on the way to our real target 42.20. I'm just trying to be straight, tell you like it is. I'm not going to come in and say, hey, this is absolutely what you should be looking for. No, not. I mean, the volatility on this Vixpiration Wednesday, yeah. But not from 4,100 to take it all the way back down to 39 like this. I'm sorry, it is what it is, but I'm not going to try to talk about it like I had this whole thing figured out. So I'll just be with you day by day, and we'll try to figure this thing out the best we can. But I'm going to tell you when I'm on my heels, and today was interesting, to say the least. Okay? I'll see you again at the next update.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency. It's one of the things that won me